Test. Hello, everyone. This is Igbe Adoye. I'm your host, as you know, of Africa's Leading Voices, the podcast, hashtag ALV. I have the pleasure with me of a guest who's actually catalyzed me coming back and podcasting, and it's Michael Lee, a very interesting person who I'm getting to know. Interesting for many reasons, for sure, but two I'd like to share with you. One is Michael asked me what must be the most captivating question about this podcast anyone has ever asked me. How I know it was captivating is the coaching me left and the responder in me responded with the beautifully framed question. And the question, was something around why do I do what I do and what's behind this passion for Africa. And when you know the coach is really good is when, as the responder, as the person being coached, you don't remember the question as much as you remember the impact it had on you, right? And so it had such an impact on me, the question. And as I thought through it, I thought, why do I do what I do with this podcast? And here's the reason, because for me, for centuries, stories have been told about us as Africa and as Africans. So stories have been told for us, stories have been told to us. Sometimes they've been told with us, but mostly against us. And I want to tell stories for Africa about us and with us. I want many, many more of us to tell these stories with curiosity, to tell these stories with energy and with excitement, so that together we consciously create this Africa that we want. And so this is what Michael did for me earlier in the week. And he was also telling me, he calls it Giving Week. Some of us might know that in the Northern Hemisphere, specifically in America, there is the celebration of Thanksgiving. And I just want to say that I recognize that that is a controversial celebration. So while some people are being thankful for, the Mayflower and coming into America, that was at the cost of many, many indigenous lives and indigenous people's identities. So I just want to recognize the controversy in that, and still also recognize the goodness in this idea of giving back and giving thanks. And Michael runs the Innotivity Institute, and he was talking to me about Giving Week. That already caught my attention, and some of what Innotivity is trying to do for and through people on the continent. He sparked me around this idea of, it was in a sense, Michael, a version of give one person fish versus teaching people how to fish. That's how it landed for me, because I think he said, teach one person the tool and they may use it, they may not use it, they're more than likely not going to share it, but teach a bunch of coaches how to do this thing that we're talking about. They're going to use it with 10 other people, because that's what coaches do. Absolutely, and I agree with that. And so that's why I invited you into this conversation. I'm really curious, and I think others would be as well, to understand what the Innotivity Institute is and what's hot with Giving Week 2020 hashtag.
Hey, well, there's a lot in there to address. So let me start by saying hello, and thank you for having me on this broadcast. Let me start, I suppose, with just the basic of who I am and what the Innotivity Institute is. So I have been a creative professional for my entire adult life in the film industry, working primarily as a director and producer and sometimes writer of reality and documentary content, mostly until recently. Um, Recently, I've shifted very much into a direction that I began, in education 15 years ago, but into coaching, training, and so on around creativity. And the word innovativity is really very simple. As you may have already figured out, or people that are listening may have already figured out, it's simply the words creativity and innovation put together. Why that matters, though, is that creativity and innovation are distinct things. They're different things, but they're very much the same thing also, which is simply creativity is the thinking of new ideas, and innovation is the implementation or acting of new ideas. So what really matters, is that both of those are respected, both of those are brought into play. And most of the time, people like to say, telling stories is creative, making some kind of machines is innovative. science is innovative and art is creative. No, it's the exact same thing. The same impulses that drive someone to think of ideas for a painting are the same impulses that drive them to think of ideas for a business. And in fact, there's a great quote about how business is the most creative act possible.
Mm.
Um, but basically, innovation is an active thing, and creativity is a thought thing. And they go together.
Mm.
Like, like I don't know, the left glove and the right glove. You don't want to just walk
Mm.
around in the snow with one glove on. You need both.
Right.
And if it's hot out and you don't want gloves, well, then you need both hands to have no gloves.
Mm.
Unless
Mm.
you're Michael Jackson and it's like a fashion statement. So,
Yeah.
so the bottom line is creativity and innovation are both necessary, right? They're both part of the process, and that process is innovativity, because no one else has given that process a name in the
Mm.
entire, apparently. Can you hear my dog barking?
I can, and because we're whole people, that's okay. you
Okay.
know. It's the COVID new. I can hear, and it sounds good. And by the way, all of you listening, you should check out Michael's website, because there's a really interesting story about Benji and cooked carrots. You should hear that story. Keep going, Michael.
Sure. That's not the dog. The dog that's barking there is my puppy Lance. Uh,
Oh,
Bonbon is the one that eats cooked carrots. Lance, I have not tried it on yet, but because he's a puppy, I want to feed him the proper food.
proper food, yeah.
Bonbon's very
Mm,
quiet and peaceful. Lance, not so much. Lance is anyway. It's very much an
yeah.
honor to be on a
Mm,
show that's honoring Africa's voices, because
mm.
obviously I don't, to some people I don't look African, but you sure you don't want me to maybe go close the door?
I think let's have a conversation with Lance.
Where should I pick up?
So we've dealt with Lance now. Lance wanted to be heard, and we've heard him, and now he's sort of in
Yeah,
pause. We
it's
were talking
okay.
about Africa and this idea of putting creativity and innovation together to Innotivity.
Right. So yeah, just regarding Africa. So I am African. I am also American. I'm African American, and that really
Mm,
messes people's heads up when I say that, but it's true. It's legally true. And what's interesting about Africa as a source of stories and a source of creativity, there's a very different
mm,
approach to creativity than necessarily in certain other cultures, right? But human beings across the board, across cultures, across every country, and across every ethnicity or nationality, we're all born creative, right? We're all
yeah,
born with a creativity skill. It's built into us.
yeah.
Even animals have a little bit of it, like other
Mm,
animals than us. So it's important to recognize that that's a universal skill. And if you're the kind of person that sits there and thinks, I'm not really that creative, or I wish I was more creative, it's not something that is alien to anybody. Everybody has access to it.
mm,
Everybody is creative. Everybody has access to their creativity. But
mm,
most of, literally 98% of grown adults have lost our the sort of natural creativity we were born with. Only
yeah.
very few people really have access to that, and it's mainly, well, there's a lot of reasons for it, but
Mm,
mainly something that can be fixed very easily. It can be regained.
yeah.
So that's what, when we talk about what do I do, what we do at the Innotivity Institute,
Mm,
what I do is, we train and coach people to regain that creativity, and therefore regain access to innovation as well. And the idea that you can innovate without that is a little bit tricky. People think
mm,
they can put in processes like, say, design thinking, or things that help the company, or team innovate better. But until they deal with the individuals in that team,
mm,
actually addressing the sort of great reduction of creative abilities that almost everybody has gone through, then it's you're really not accessing the full level of innovation that's possible in an organization. Now,
yeah.
you mentioned in your introduction about what I said about coaches, which is that we have also done a program where we trained a number of like several dozen coaches, and we are currently putting together the next version of that. And
Mm,
why I love training coaches, I believe I said to you, is that coaches, first of all, they really pay attention and they really get what's going on. but they also want to take that knowledge and pass it on to a lot of people naturally, even if it's just because it's their business, but their business is to
Yeah.
go out and apply what they learn to a lot of clients, right?
Yeah.
Whether that's coaches, consultants, trainers, teachers, any of that, people, they want to, take what they learn and bring it farther.
Yeah.
I think mostly business people by nature are going to take what you train them, they're going to apply it to their products, and of course their products might travel, but the actual knowledge and the actual focus of what I do is not going to travel so much.
Yeah.
So it's exciting to work with coaches for that reason, that my mission is their mission, and so therefore they're going to naturally go out and do stuff that's going to expand what I'm doing, and it just feels great when that happens.
Yeah. So listen out, because towards the end of this podcast, we're going to share. Well, Michael will share with you what the giveaway is, the give back is for Giving Week, where this is concerned. So, Michael, I want to get into the how. One of the things that I recall you said in our conversation on Tuesday was that we have this wealth and this well of creativity when we're 5 that we somehow don't have anymore as adults, and you've alluded to that again. So I don't want to talk so much about how it happens that we lost it. I think what people, and I'm certainly more curious about, is how do we get it back? How do we get this back? So what do you do? And I've seen some of the testimonials from your work, which really made me even more curious. The breakthrough, fantastic, profound, and yet simple. So how do you do profound and simple at the same time? What do you do? How do you get people back?
So profound and simple at the same time is actually both profound and simple itself. The reason it is important to touch on one of the reasons why it goes away, right? It's natural, it's there. If 5-year-olds have it, then they didn't have to learn it, right?
Mm.
I mean, nobody taught 5-year-olds how to be creative, and yet they are. The way it goes away is that we spend a lot of energy and time developing a skill set called self, right? That
Right.
we become very, very good at it, right? We're all very good at being ourselves. And some people might not like themselves, and some people might love themselves, and some people might, struggle with parts of themselves, like they have an anxiety problem. Whatever it is, at the bottom line of it, we're all pretty satisfied with the fact that we're ourselves.
Mm.
And we might want to change ourselves, we might want to improve ourselves, but bottom line is we're really pretty convinced that we are ourselves. Right?
We get comfortable with that self, right? It
We
has
do.
worked, so we stick with it. Yeah.
Even if we don't like ourselves, we're very comfortable with that.
True. True.
And the really difficult part is that we're really convinced that there's no other choice. Right? That being who we are is kind of just like gravity.
And don't we say it all the time? I'm who I am. This is who I am. Accept me for who I am. We even sing songs about it. How do we move beyond that? We do sing songs
and a
about
lot
it.
of the time, because of people's insecurities, it becomes important for them to actually, say like I'm strong about who I am, right?
Mm.
But those insecurities themselves are part of who they are. So,
Right.
it's the biggest challenge to our creativity is truly that over our lives, we select a set of qualities that we represent, right?
Mm.
And if things are outside of those qualities, we're not going to really have access to them. So if we're the kind of person who has certain kinds of ideas, it's not going to be easy to have other kinds of ideas because we're not that person, right? So what we need to do is restore the basic way that people already had in them before they became somebody.
Mm.
Those ways existed, and they look a lot like a very logical process. If you look at it, you can draw it very logically. It's not. Most people's experience of creativity is very confused and accidental, and it looks like a ball of string that a cat played with a lot.
Right.
But it isn't that. It's very much, it's very much a set of steps, and those steps aren't necessarily a straight line, but they're certainly not confusing and difficult. And so what we need to do to restore that is to go through a process of actually restoring that, which begins with realizing that, that our subconscious is a lot more important to creativity than we give it space to be.
Mm.
Very few people really embrace allowing their subconscious to do its proper job as human beings, right? Our subconscious is designed to do certain things. And a lot of what it does is stuff that we don't want to think about, right? So we've told our subconscious to go and do all these things that are repetitive, that do not involve creativity. We've told it to make sure that when we drive home, we find our house, right?
Right.
And that's why we get home and we don't remember driving there, because
Mm.
we didn't think about it.
Mm.
So the subconscious is capable of fantastic things that it can do for us, but it doesn't get assigned the really important one of coming up with new ideas, which is the only place that they come from. Our conscious mind will never think of an idea. So the first thing you can do to improve your creativity is stop trying to think of ideas.
That's hard. Because when you think creativity, immediately you're thinking, ideas, what can I come up with? So how do you practically do that?
Well, look, I mean, part of it is a process that I've, I won't say I've created, but I've distilled from a lot of reading and a lot of study of other creative thinkers. And it's hard to go through all of it like on a podcast, but it is kind of all sitting up there if you go research me. But the basic line of it is you need to put some safe measures in place to let your subconscious actually, do the work it's meant to do. You need to then do the work of investigating who you actually are and how you got, not so much how you got there as in like what happened to you, but get clear that you chose who you are. And if there's things about who you are that are in the way of creating new ideas, start looking at how do you choose another way of being. Start looking at what is the way of being that would be most effective for the kind of work you want to do today.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the same next week or next month or last year. We are stuck in this idea that it has to be. It does not. It's simply a habit, and habits are hard to break because habits actually become physical things. When you want to quit smoking, it's like you think you can quit easily, but then you find yourself picking up a cigarette, right? And you don't know how it happened. It's because your body has its own mission, and it's the same with creativity. If you build a habit of creativity, if you build the habit of letting yourself think outside of the way that you thought yesterday, and we talk about thinking out of the box. I mean, that's really the box we're dealing with, is the box of the self. We need to stop trying to think out of the box because it doesn't make sense. Like we think into boxes, that's what happens. But we need to build new boxes that are differently sized, shape. So the practical thing, the practical way to deal with this is really do you notice, Egbe, that a lot of the best ideas you have, and maybe all of them, come when you're not expecting?
Yes, and yes, actually, they fly into my view, into my conscious, and if I don't catch them, they fly out again. I have noticed that. Yes.
Yeah. So that's the subconscious operation, right? You might do a lot of work in study and thinking and reading and talking, but when you want to come to the point of having the new idea, it's not going to come through that stuff. It's going to come after that stuff, and that stuff is important because it puts new information into the process, but it does not in any way actually cause the idea. Right? The idea comes from something that we don't understand, and we don't need to understand. We just know that it comes.
It happens.
It happens when you're in the toilet or the shower or taking a walk or playing with your kid, right? It doesn't happen when you're sitting at your desk trying to have an idea.
So there's a sense of trust the process that I'm hearing. So trust the process, recognize that there are certain conditions that will make it come. So I'm just thinking very practically. I'm sitting somewhere, I don't know, I'm sitting in Kigali thinking, okay, I get this. Creativity is my thoughts. Innovation is my action. I really want to be innovative. I have this idea that I could have this idea, so I don't even have the idea yet. help me, Michael. That's what I'm saying. Obviously, we're not going to do everything that Michael does in the next 10 minutes, but clearly, crisply, help me, Michael. So I
Yeah.
want to do something. I want to add value, but I'm stuck.
Okay. So you know, it is like literally a 2-month everyday process that I put people through. So it is not going to happen in the
Mm,
next 10 minutes. But
mm,
what people need to deal with is the basic lies that they're telling themselves. If you believe you're not that creative and that's your problem, that's a lie. Wipe it out right now. You
mm,
are that creative. Something's happened along the way. You need to restore it, but you have access to it, right?
mm.
If you believe that you are super creative and it's just natural to you and you don't have to worry about it, that's a lie. You're not just super creative. Everyone was born as creative as you were born. You've done something right, or you had good luck along the way to keep yourself in a position that allows that. So don't look at it like it's just an accident either. There's something active happening, right?
Mm,
So
mm,
whether it's like, Elon Musk or Stephen Jobs or Picasso or Credo Mutwa, whoever it is that is very creative, that person didn't just get born that way. It's really
mm.
important for everyone to realize that. So if people are stuck on things and thinking, oh, I wish I was more creative, you actually can be, and it's not that hard, and you need to stop complaining, right?
We all have
Um,
it in nature, and we can nurture it. That's what I'm hearing. We all get
abs-
gifted with it, and we can nurture it.
Absolutely, and it is all born into us. There is pretty much no nurture happening in it at first, right? It is only like,
Hmm.
and so the second major thing people need to understand is that it's not important to be original to be creative, right? Most creative ideas that you can think of, if not every one of them, did not start with the person you think it did. You know, I'm not saying go steal other people's ideas and don't credit them. I'm saying it takes a lot of ideas to get an idea to really land.
Like
So
Thomas Edison and the light bulb, like Henry Ford and the vehicle. When you
right.
do the research, you find out that actually there are other people who had done it, but they just come out marketed as the first. Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, the light bulb was invented 75 years before Thomas Edison even
Mm,
touched it. Right?
mm.
It's just that it was a useless product. It didn't work.
The
I mean, it
filament was
worked for like
missing.
1 second, less than a second.
Right.
It cost like a huge amount of money to have one light bulb work. So at
Yeah.
the time when the person invented that, it was a huge invention, right? I mean, they managed to get an electric thing to light up.
Mm.
The concept of electricity lighting up the world was born then, not with Thomas Edison, but it took until Thomas Edison figured out, with a team of hundreds, after
Mm.
1,000 failures, after that, he figured out how to actually turn a light bulb into a marketable device that people could use. So it wasn't
Yeah.
like, if you don't come up with the best idea like the first time and you give up, that's just because you're like kind of lazy, you know?
It
That's
could be.
pointless.
It could be. So that's super judgment. It could also be that there are limitations to the resources that you have, because Edison couldn't have done the filament without the guy who discovered the thing that makes the filament spark as well.
Yeah,
I
and
can't
there's the guy,
remember his
and
name.
there's
It's a
the
black guy who did that. Yeah.
and there's the kid in Kenya. I think it's in Kenya. There's a very famous movie about this guy who made a windmill that powered his whole
Ah,
town.
in Malawi. Yes.
In
Yes. The boy
Malawi,
who
that's
made
right.
it
Malawi.
rain. Yes. Yes.
He did not have resources.
Yes. True. Fair
I
enough.
mean, the way you mean, right? Resources he
Yeah.
had were inside himself.
Yeah.
Um,
Fair challenge. I like that challenge. It's true. When
yeah.
I suppose it's the will and the way. Okay. So I like what I'm hearing. What I've heard right now is that creativity plus innovation actually doesn't get you where you want to go until you have a crisp, clear thing that is marketable and that people are willing to purchase, buy, or use. So how do you get from bright idea to thing that people will use? Can it be coached?
Well,
Can
it
it
is
be
often
practiced?
coached. It is often coached. And again, where I think you're really on point when you say like Edison had a lot of resources. He did. He was a millionaire by a very young age because he made himself that. But when by the time he dealt with other inventions, and the light bulb was not his first thing, by the time he dealt with that, he had a lot of money and he had a whole company and people were doing lots of work for him, right?
Mm. Mm.
So, and it's the same way in a lot of big companies now. I mean, yeah, Steve Jobs started in his garage, but not for very long. I mean, by the time that they put out products, they already had a company running with people in it.
Yeah. Apple's
Um,
not coming from a garage anymore, that's for sure.
no, and it wasn't coming from a garage for very long
Yeah.
either. If
Yeah.
you, they actually got a lot of their ideas from Xerox, um,
Mm-hmm.
like the mouse, right? The Apple mouse was supposedly Apple's invention, but it was not Apple's invention. It was an adaptation they made from Xerox's very bad mouse that didn't work properly and was clumsy. But the idea of a mouse was Xerox's idea, or
Mm-hmm.
a scientist that Xerox employed. Uh, it was not Apple's idea. By
Yeah.
the time they went to Xerox to figure out that the user interface that Apple's famous for, that was the big innovation of Apple, not Apple's
Mm.
idea,
Yeah, right.
Xerox's idea. Again, Xerox did a bad job of it. Why? Because Xerox didn't make computers.
Yeah.
And somebody at Xerox said, we don't make computers. Same way someone at Kodak said, we don't make electric
Right.
cameras.
Yeah. The famous one. I mean, and there are more recent ones, like look at Nokia not really moving into smartphone technology, into flat
Right,
devices. So
right.
it,
Or
I
BlackBerry for
if
that reason.
or
But it
Blackberry,
was,
oh, that breaks my heart because they were brilliant, with that
yeah,
BlackBerry Messenger. So if people could see me, they'd see me tapping my nose because there's something almost about the nose. It's something I remember hearing as a child, like follow your nose, follow your instinct, the nose. So there's something about having an idea, and there's something about doggedly pushing that idea through to something that will work.
yeah.
And it's not always, as you say, the person who has the idea that will be the person that will make it work. What else, what more comes between the creativity and the innovation that makes it a workable product? So if creativity is thought and innovation is action, what is the link? How do you sort of process through creativity through innovation? So innotivity, to use your language, to get to a viable, actionable thing.
Well, the interesting thing, and this is why I think it's important to use the word or the thought innovativity, is that creativity without innovation is kind of pointless, and most people aren't interested in it, and vice versa, right?
Mm,
It may be that Edison didn't come up with the light bulb as his own idea, but there was a whole lot of creative thinking he put in to improving it. It wasn't
mm,
just like, okay, it's not like, okay, here's an idea, and now you take that idea and you go sell it, right? It's not like that at all. I mean, it just doesn't work that way, right?
mm,
The whole process of having an idea often involves trying and failing to sell the first idea, going back and redrawing it, right? So,
right.
where did the idea get born? Was it the first moment that it was arising, or is it the
Mm,
875th iteration? Was Edison's literally famously 10,000 failed light bulb experiments? Which one of
mm,
those? In which one of those was the light bulb's idea born? Right? None of
mm,
them, obviously. All 10,000 was part of the creative
mm,
process and part of the innovation process. So to actually separate those two things into two distinct things is very difficult.
mm,
I mean, it's easy
mm.
to say Steve Jobs is more of an innovator because he never had his own real ideas, but weren't they ideas? Isn't the idea of making an iPhone
Improving someone's idea, an idea. Yeah.
right? Or isn't the idea that a consumer should have more say in the product than the inventor
Yeah.
an idea? Isn't that an idea?
Also, that design should be simple and clean. That's an idea.
Right. You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
where does the idea begin and end, and where does the innovation of the idea begin and end? I just think there's too much there's a lot too much separation of those two things, and
Yeah.
you see it in daily life that I work in innovation. You're creative, you're a creative thinker, you probably don't get
Mm,
stuff done, like it's nonsensical. I mean, did Mozart write things to play music so that no
mm,
one could play them? No, he went and played them himself, right? Does Beyonce, because she doesn't write all her own songs, does that make her not creative? It's absurd, right? She's not just an innovator because she implements the music. I mean, there's something about her whole persona and her whole way of doing things that is creative.
Identity, absolutely.
Whether it's an artist, whether it's an inventor, whether it's a
Mm,
scientist, a business person, whatever it is,
mm.
whoever it is, the idea there is really no separation between these two things,
Yeah,
except that creativity involves thinking and innovation involves taking an action and
doing. Yeah.
right. But
So what I love, mm,
it does not mean that they're two different things that don't go together.
yeah,
That's what I'm trying to say, right? And it's really
yeah,
important because you otherwise have a lot of people saying like, "Oh, I have all these great ideas, but I don't know how to sell them." Well, then you don't have great ideas, right? Because part of the idea needs to involve figuring out a way to sell them, and it might
right.
take a long time, right?
I like that.
It
Mm,
might take finding the right relationships or building the right business around it.
yeah.
But especially today, it's just a rare thing that somebody like just wanders around having ideas and doesn't have to do anything about them. I mean, a couple of there's a couple of Japanese inventors. They're really like, I don't want to use an improper term, but they're people. They've invented over 9,000 things each that are patented, and some of them are just weird stuff,
Mm,
like electric condoms but the same guy that made the electric condom made the floppy disk, you know.
mm.
He holds his breath underwater to come up with ideas until he's almost drowned. He's not a normal guy,
No,
but
he's not.
he come up with weird
Clearly
ideas.
not.
He finds
Yeah,
ways to get them in the market one way or the other, right? He
yeah.
finds ways to get them patented. It's one process. That's what's important.
I I hear you. I hear you. So it's not either or, it's both and. Creativity begets innovation, begets creativity. What
And it
I'm
is.
also
It's a loop.
hearing,
It's a loop.
it's a loop. What I'm also hearing is that how it shows up for the individual is dependent on the individual. So it might show up in how you're able to catalyze other people's ideas, and that ability to catalyze is your creativity or your innovativity, creation and creativity and innovation. So that might be your thing, catalyzing other people's ideas, pulling it together in a beautiful way, like Beyonce. That might be your gift, branding it. So there's no one way to come at this. I'm hearing that, it makes sense to me. Here's a question that I'd like you to answer as we sort of wrap up in the conversation. What do you as a coach do? So practically, if I have an issue, I'm stuck and I need coaching through my innovativity sort of stuckness, my innovativity dilemma. What would you offer me as a coach? So coming to Michael Lee, a coach in the Innotivity Institute, what will you offer?
Now, let me just. So you're saying that you're a coach coming to me as a coach, or you're just
No,
a.
I'm saying I'm a person stuck. So I'm a person that's who is stuck. I think I have this idea. Basically, I'm looking for help breakthrough around innovation and creativity. And I hear that there's this guy called Michael who does this innovativity thing, and he's a coach who helps people through. What would you do? What are you doing?
Okay, well, first of all, me personally, I don't do a lot of one-on-one coaching. I do a lot of group coaching, but I do one-on-one coaching if it's with the right people, because most people aren't going to go out and use it properly. They're not going to go out and make a real impact. And so I only look for those people that really would. Since you are one of those people, I would ask you, what is what is it that you're stuck on exactly? You know.
Mm, mm.
So tell me, what is it you're stuck on exactly?
Right now, interesting question. So right now here's something that I am genuinely stuck on. I'm stuck on trying to figure out whether I want to be self-employed or whether I want to be an entrepreneur, because there's a difference between the two, and they're sort of gifts and trade-offs, right, between the two. So
Yeah.
that's something I'm genuinely stuck on.
So the interesting thing is that people want to make decisions very quickly, right?
Mm.
And you're talking about making a decision.
Yes.
So decisions actually come for me very late in the process, after you come up with all the ideas around the process. So in order
Mm.
to actually make that decision properly, you have to go through the full process of what are all the thoughts you have about each of those two things. Have you done that?
Mm. I started, so that's what I'm doing now. I'm in the process.
Right. And that process doesn't necessarily have to take a long time, but it does need to be thorough, right? You want to go through and come up with as many ideas as you can. Now, the problem is, of course, you're going to come up with those ideas from
And
the
the challenges.
right?
From the
Already.
perspective of?
That you're already in.
Oh, right.
So you're going to come up with what's the best idea for you, right? But we already dealt with earlier in this conversation that the you that's the best idea for is a very static you.
Right.
And therefore already not admitting the change that's possible in choosing between those two different paths that you're looking at, right? So you're not really fully embracing the opportunity and the possibility of those two paths. You're only embracing the possibility that Egbert, can see in those two paths. And what value you, Egbert, see in those two paths. Right?
But if I can't see outside of myself.
Sorry?
No, I was just going to say, if I can't see outside of myself, that's a conundrum, right? Because I can only be and see what I am and can see. So
Exactly.
What's the path through that?
Well, that's part of the whole process of Innotivity is how do you generate other ways of looking at yourself and start to accept those other ways, right? Because if you don't do that, and I mean, look, any coach by nature is already going to have a skill at that, right? Because they have to be able to do that for their clients. They have to be able to see it from a place of nothing, from a place of silence. So you already personally, Egbe, probably have a much broader skill at that than the average person. But you still will tend to fall back into which one suits me best, right?
Which one am I more comfortable with? Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily exactly. And that does not necessarily lead you to which one is going to be the best one to pursue, right?
Right.
Because the great innovators, or let's say the great innovatators, I don't know, but the great innovators are people that saw beyond themselves, right? They didn't see, and this is where the decision needs to be, the decision between those two things in the process I would coach, and it wouldn't be a one session thing necessarily, but the decision would rest ultimately on your vision. Because vision is where decision happens, right? And decision about those two, what is going to best execute the vision you have? Not for yourself, because that's boring and small. The vision you have, right, for the world. Which one of those paths is going to best execute that vision? And you might find it much easier to choose the path without reflecting it on your own identity, even, right? Be able to say, okay, this path is to create the vision I want. Now, how do I change myself to fit that path?
Sure,
so
that's powerful.
Decision making is cool. It's a public thing, right? Because otherwise it's based on what we already think, what we already know, what we already want. And those decisions aren't going to be, and we spend lots of time worrying about which one's better. And the irony is that it's not necessarily a better choice just because we thought about it more, right? And considered more things that we could process through the same process of thought we always use, that out of 7 billion people on the planet, right? So what I would say to people who are trying to make decisions about things is look for the vision also. Don't leave that out. What is the thing that you want to achieve with this? And don't let other people's identities and your own identity, right, compromise that vision. You might fail many times on the way to that vision, right? But if your vision is, for example, like, give me your vision for Africa. What is it?
Sure, that's big. I don't think you see, do you see what I mean about Michael's questions? My vision for Africa, have I articulated? So my vision for Africa is one where we are creators and not recipients of our own destiny. And what that means for me is that we have leaders who are both conscious and capable of making the right, sustainable, positive decisions and choose to do it. So there's something about consciously capable with agency and creating an Africa that is good for most Africans. It can't always be good for all.
All Africans.
Right? Well, yeah, all Africans.
Why not all Africans?
Why not all
A vision.
Africans? It is a vision. It is a vision. Yeah. Okay. So maybe I shouldn't limit myself. The pragmatist in me is coming up with the most. What I
Right?
do see right now is a lot of decision making that is selfish in
No, no, no.
protecting vested interests.
No, we're not doing that
Tell
today.
me. Okay.
What we got out of you after a little bit of 10 seconds of like, oh, I can't do this right now, it's too big. You just stated it without any issues, right? Did you notice how simple that
Yeah,
was?
it is simple. It is.
An
Yes.
Africa that works for all Africans based on
Based on capable leadership that's conscious. Yes, that's conscious, that's capable, and that chooses to do the right positive thing, to take right positive actions.
That's your
Yes.
vision for Africa, right there, right?
It is. It is my vision for
You
Africa.
even recorded it now. So, and people are watching you say it. The point is,
Right.
it's not hard. It's simple, right? We create things as we fall out of, bed. That's what we do. We're human beings, but we have stifled that over many years, as you can see, right? You wanted to immediately go, oh, that's a big thing. He asked me this
It
question.
is big. I feel anxiety even talking with you about it. It is big, but yeah, thank you. That is my vision for Africa.
It's
Okay.
not big or small. It's just a vision.
It is a vision. Yes. Yeah.
Right? But that vision, if you make decisions from that vision, that will help you make decisions much faster.
I see how that will be. And it opens and closes doors. I get what you're saying about it might change, it will change who I am, it might change who I am, because as I think about that vision that I've just expressed, and I think about the reasons that I was thinking of, should it be entrepreneurial, should it be self-employment, the whole deck of cards changes, actually. The whole deck of cards changes in light of that vision, and the decision points shift. So yeah, thank you.
Can you briefly tell us, for the benefit of those watching, how did the deck of cards change because of that vision?
Sure. So before you ask me the question, when I told you that this is the dilemma I'm dealing with, I was dealing with it from my perspective, from my being as Egbe now, as I sit, as a mother of really young children, as a wife to a husband, and as someone who's simultaneously having fun, creating this and doing this work, but also really frustrated by the limitations of the work and getting the work. So that was my view on the issue, and that was my view on, is it entrepreneurship, is it self-employment, and what are the trade-offs? But when you ask me about the vision, and I sort of, this is the vision, those things are not the most pressing things anymore. Because what changed in that stack of cards is all the things I said are still true, but then other things came into that deck of cards, like the pressing need to really create a critical mass, of people who can equip leaders to be capable. And so what does that mean? So all the question set in my head just shifted. So that's an example.
Kind of fell away, didn't it? All the questions in your head.
In a way, and I realized that I didn't really, I wasn't sure anymore if I had the right questions. I needed to go back and think again about the questions. Never mind the answers.
You'll come up with more egg questions again.
Right. So so practically, how would I come up with questions linked to the vision? I mean, I have to at some point introspect.
What were the two paths you're trying to decide between?
Self-employment, entrepreneurship.
Okay, which one is it?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
Leads to the vision? The vision you just stated, which one leads to the vision?
I think it's incremental. The answer is it's not either or.
Uh-huh.
The answer is that it's incremental. So that's what, yeah.
Yeah. So you're asking the wrong question in the first place.
Yeah. So the question should have been a timing question, not an either or question. So that's what has been opened up for me in this. Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
Yeah, when you have a vision that big, the difference between letting the vision move you and trying to do it yourself is that you're pushing. You're pushing from Egbe. You're pulling from the vision. In fact, the vision is pulling you, isn't it? I mean, you can't possibly achieve that.
No, I can't. No, I'm a cog in a wheel, and that's why and That's one of the things that came to my mind actually as you were speaking to me. It's like the critical and the criticality of the massive voices. And I'm conscious that I've used that phrase, quite a few times in this conversation, this idea of the critical mass of voices, a number of people. And so suddenly the way the deck of cards shifted is, okay, so it's not really either or anymore. It's how are you going to be in service of that? And what the timing is to get to that vision. And the realization that I'm not going to achieve that in my lifetime, maybe, but I can do the things I need to do and be conscious and deliberate about doing them so that as I'm doing what I'm doing for the now, I'm also setting a foundation for the future for other people to take it over. So now I get what you mean about this whole Edison thing. So, was it the first person 50 years before Edison, or was it Edison? And was it the first time, or was it the 1000th time? It's all creativity and innovation, right? I was going to say innovativity. It's all, I love it. I get it. I'm seeing it.
You get it now, right?
Well done, Michael. I get it. So, thank you, Michael. I have to say, I came in with curiosity and not a lot of understanding. And in this conversation, my curiosity is still there. My understanding is clearer. Thank you for making it really practical and asking me those questions. I love the way you ask questions. I really do. It's one of the things about me. I'm a lover of great questions. So, Michael, as we wrap up, there is something you're doing. It's Giving Week for you at Innotivity Institute. And as you say, your work really is, you see yourself, and your passion is for coaching coaches and equipping coaches as opposed to coaching individual people. So what is this offer that you have for coaches at the moment to come on your program and participate in this that we've just done together?
So two distinct things in a way, right? So Giving Week, or Giving Generosity and Gratitude Week, is really, it exists, right? And like you said, there's a lot of issues around American Thanksgiving and what it, where it came from. But one of the things I think personally is important is and some of my fellow citizens might disagree with me, which is fine. But I personally think it's very important to take the good parts of what exists and push those good parts forward, and let's move the bad parts away. So Thanksgiving may have been born from some bad things, but the beauty of the idea of getting together once a year and being grateful together, regardless of which country it started in, or any of that. It's also a religious holiday, actually.
Yeah.
From a puritanical Christianity.
Yeah.
And I'm not a Christian, but I think that idea that somebody could say, let's celebrate gratitude, together.
And give.
And the thing about Thanksgiving is it's designed as a gratitude statement, but what they've done is this. They've then decided, let's take the day after Thanksgiving and turn it into a crass commercial nightmare called Black Friday. and while we're doing that, that's not good enough. Let's make Social Saturday, and let's make
Cyber Monday.
The whole gratitude niceness of it, right? As if the fact that some people don't even understand what it's really for isn't bad enough. We have to do that. But somebody came along and made something called Giving Tuesday. It follows on all that, and I didn't even know about it till recently. So Giving Tuesday is the Tuesday after all the commercial stuff. And so we decided, while everybody is busy trying to sell stuff on Black Friday for 20% of what it costs, and basically convince everybody that we're going to give you all these great deals, we decided to not give anybody any great deal. What we're going to do is this: if anybody comes, we're having an event on Giving Tuesday. Depending on where you are in the world is obviously what time it is, because it's a live event. But the event is a combination. It's called How to Dance with Uncertainty. It's a combination of transformational work, and it's a combination of that with dancing.
Yeah. Physically dancing?
Actually physically dancing. I'm not a
Wow, beautiful. I love embodiment work.
And I'm not going to teach you how to dance, and I shouldn't. I really should not do that. But what I am going to do is encourage a little bit of dancing as part of people have had a hard year, right? but the bottom line of it is, as the metaphor of dancing with uncertainty would like you to take on the physical practice of the metaphor, right? It's not just thinking, it's also moving in a way that's going to go along with what you do. So what we want to achieve really is get as many people as we can to come, because what we're going to do is give you the experience of giving. And we're not going to get any of what you're giving. We're going to give it too. So we're giving our course, the Innovation Explosion, which sells for $350. We're going to give that away to somebody that can't afford it, that needs it, like an entrepreneur, mostly young entrepreneurs that need this training to help them. And we're working with a couple of organizations which will be promoted that are going to help distribute it to entrepreneurs. But what we need is people to come, because we're going to give it away if people come. So if 100 people come, we're going to give away 100 of the programs. That's $35,000 worth of them, right? If only 10 people come, we're only going to give away 10. So it's up to you, Egbe. If you don't show up, then you don't get to give away. You know, you don't get to say I gave away.
I love it.
You don't get to do that. If you come, you get to say that. If you invite 10 other people and they come, you get to say I personally caused $3,500 worth of stuff to get given to young business people that could use it. You know. And we're going to make sure that they can use it, because we're going to work with a couple of organizations that actually work with them to make sure that they actually, you know, don't just do what most people do, get online courses and don't do them. Right? But so that's what we're aiming to do, is to get people to come and experience together, giving together, right? So we're not going to give you stuff. We're going to give you the experience of giving without you having to give away anything, except for 90 minutes in which you're going to get stuff, actually.
Clear. So we're going to get, okay. So there you have it. There's the offer. I will be posting this out. So you will see links to this in the podcast episode and also on LinkedIn. I'll also put links to Michael's LinkedIn and his other social media things. It's Giving Tuesday. So it's Tuesday, the 1st of December. It's around the corner. So we're talking 2020, Tuesday, the 1st of December, Giving Tuesday. Come and be a part of this. Experience what I've just experienced, that little bit that I experienced, that you've heard and you've watched us go through it, how to move from a stuck position to opening new possibilities, Innotivity. Michael, thank you.
Wait,
Michael Lee's been my guest. Okay, but wait.
Not just steak knives. There's also we are focusing on you know, getting coaches into the program, which is a bigger program than just that one I just mentioned, but almost not more money. We're charging only slightly more money right now to get people into it and get it moving for next year, because it's a 3 to 4 month process to go through once you do everything. So if anybody signs up for the coaching program before the end of Giving Tuesday, we're also going to add one coaching program for someone that can't afford it in the youth community to get into that. So, you know, for example, Egbe, if you decide you want to come coach with us and get trained for that, you know, right now you could say that you want to do that. By Giving Tuesday, if you enroll in that program, we'll give a young coach access to that program with you, alongside you.
Fantastic.
Charging them, so you get to give them that. So that's the other part of this. Now, I wish I was on, like, you know, constantly on like the radio talking to millions.
Yeah.
Maybe this will be something we continue to find a way to do over time.
Maybe it will be, because I've enjoyed this conversation and I certainly have enjoyed your question. So there you have it. There's a Giving Tuesday event coming up on the 1st of December, 2020. There's also, so here's what Michael didn't say, and I'll add to what he said, is that his program is accredited with the International Coaches Register. It's in the Netherlands. So if you're looking for a program that you want to focus on to build your sort of retinue of coaching tools for 2021, that is accredited, that could give you some CPD points, check out what the Innotivity Institute is doing. Creativity, innovation, Innotivity. Thank you, Michael Lee. Thanks for a great conversation. Looking forward to the next one.